We started having family dinners. Of course, growing up, he closed his business at 6 o'clock. Dinner was on the table at 6:05, and we all had to be there.
We didn't see him until dinner time. And dinner time didn't happen until he was home.
It never occurred to me that it was anything other than just having dinner together.
We enjoyed our dinner time to the extent that we would sit there for hours.
Our quality time as kids growing up was at the dinner table after dinner.
It was amazing to me how many times when dinner was over, we were still sitting there hours later. We'd get into conversations that just were amazing, and my dad was the head of that.
And the kids, believe it or not, where you would see, even on TV, the families, the kids get up and leave. The kids never got up and left the table.
Because he was so busy, that was the hour every single day that he got to bond with his kids. And it was so important for him to bond with his kids, even though he was so busy. It changed all of us. It changed all of us.
So just in general, meal times were a lot of fun, and it was the central part of our family bonding.
But most of the time we would talk about what we did. Lou would ask them, are you unhappy about anything? And the boys, Louie and Michael, because Michelle was the baby, was younger, would say, yeah, we don't like her, get rid of her.
So, of course, that wasn't very nice, but they all chuckled about it, except Michelle. She didn't chuckle very much about it. She was upset.
We start laughing, and Dad probably had a typical rough day, and he tells us stop the laughing. It's serious. We're sitting down having dinner. We're going to have a conversation, fine, but stop the giggling.
My dad would look at my mom and say, Arlene, do you believe them? They can't even be serious. And she would, I know, I don't know what their problem is. And then he would lean down and take a bite, and she'd be like, and we would get hysterical.
You guys can't eat and be serious. Leave the table.
And of course, you can imagine this just escalates.
So Michael couldn't be serious. He left the table. And Louie as well. The next thing I know, Lisa's hysterical. Well, of course, Michelle, they beat her up, but she was hysterical now, laughing too. So she left. I said, they want to get rid of the assistant. You can't get rid of her. You can't send her back.
So one at a time, we leave and go into the bathroom and close the door. And we're hysterical in the bathroom.
So I'm sitting there all alone with him. So I get up and say, you'll have to excuse me.
But the most hysterical thing was when my mother ended up in the bathroom with us laughing, and my father's sitting there having dinner by himself.
And next thing you know, I look around and I'm eating dinner all by myself. Everybody's in the next room, hysterical. I can hear them all laughing. So that's where that went. And I finished my dinner and said, well, if you guys want to come back out and eat, it's up to you.
She was the instigator, and here she ends up with us.
Everything was fun with them.
It wasn't in his DNA to fool around at dinner. My mom, she was one of 13 kids. All that was happening was talking and so forth. And so it was really neat to see the two of them be Ricky and Lucy and just have so much fun with my mother that way.
Lucy and Ricky Ricardo are characters. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz played characters that were Lucy and Ricky Ricardo. My parents are Lucy and Ricky Ricardo.
My mother was a nut like Lucille Ball. And my dad was just like Desi Arnaz. He was just like Ricky.
My mother, she's a whack job.
And my mother just being a whack job. Just being off the charts. And my father being her straight man.
Oh, she did some simple, silly things, but we always had a ball with her.
Well, I was out in the backyard and we had rabbits. And I put 2 rabbits together and they started fighting. So I put my hand in to stop them. And one of them grabbed right onto my hand, and I ran around the house, the yard, with this rabbit on my hand, yelling,
and her running around the yard with the rabbit swinging from her arm, and my father just saying, "Arlene, what are you doing?"
Or open the garage door, and one of the kids playing outside tied their dog to the handle of the garage door. Well, the garage door went up and here's this dog swinging from back. She opened it again because she didn't believe what she saw. And here's this dog swinging.
Her coming from the pool into the house and not opening the door and just going straight through the door.
And instead of opening the screen door, I went through it. And the kid said to me, "Mom, you're not Wonder Woman. You can't do these things."
She was hysterical.
That's why they call me Lucy.
I'm using that as an overall example of my father's unconditional love for my mother.
It made it so much fun because it wasn't the way he was, but he has so much love and admiration and respect for her that she could be that.
Everything to me was funny. That's why sometimes we would argue a little bit, because I would make it funny and it wasn't funny.
And so there were times that he would get into arguments with my mom, and they'd be over silly things. We really wouldn't even pay attention so much.
But if you argue and separate, that's a tragedy. If you argue and grow, that's a success. And so I got to see that in my parents, and I am a firm believer and always said you're a product of your environment. And so watching them be Lucy and Ricky and fight once in a while and totally make up and then laugh and have fun, those are the things that I got to keep.
They were just having fun, and we learned how to have fun from them. And if you wonder how that works, you watch I Love Lucy. That was our 24/7. We just never stopped laughing. Never stopped laughing.